Hello, everyone.
Oh,
Welcome to the Leg Kick Podcast. I'm your host, David, here with co-host, co-owner, co-conspirator, Michael, Bam Bam Asiffo. Michael, how you doing today?
good. Why Bam Bam?
I don't know. I just like Bam Bam. I don't know. I feel like we recycle the same fight name, so I thought I would just give you like a common one, Pebbles.
Pebbles?
Yeah, but anyway, before we get into our topic today, we'll be talking about UFC. We'll also have a little bit of a Joe Budden discussion, just because we're
Apparently.
black and that's what we like. um, I just want to say, everyone, please like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on the Instagram and Facebook. If you have any kind of feedback, any kind of question that you want to see us talk about, please ask us. We have no lives. We are here to serve you. So please make sure you reach out to us and we will do our best to answer your questions in a timely manner. Once again, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you search us up on the Leg Kick on YouTube and all your channels. And yeah, Michael, first of all, how are you doing today?
Um, Wonderfully. I posted a video on the YouTube, two videos on the good old YouTube for the channel. One is we are delving deep into the world of boxing. Jeremy is doing the world of boxing a favor by using his soft, dulcet tones to do weekly news reports, and we just started episode one. And we made a list on Diego Sanchez. Albeit about a week too late, but we finally got it up. So yeah,
Better
go
late than
watch
never,
those two
man.
videos.
Yeah, go watch those two videos. Better late than never. If you have any comments on them, please let us know, and we will flame you in response. I'm
Yeah.
joking. No, we will just respond.
No,
And,
no, we will. We will.
hilarious. Okay. Yeah. Before we started recording, we were talking about Joe Budden. And you had some thoughts that you wanted to get off.
No, it was just yeah, like clearly the situation was that he's gonna sneeze. Bless you. Yeah. Three is for good luck, by the way. So sneeze two more times. Go ahead.
Hilarious. Nailed it. I've definitely sneezed way more than three more times.
David has the COVID
The
virus. No, I shouldn't
COVID?
say
Don't
that.
even joke about that. Don't
Yeah,
even
I know
joke
it's
about that.
serious. It's
I
serious.
just traveled from Toronto. I think it's like air filters, man. There's just too much dust in the air, and it's allergy season.
Yeah. Did I tell you about like the allergy attack I had one day? Oh man, it was terrible. Like I was walking. So basically, I was walking outside, as you can only do in Toronto now. And I laid on the grass, and apparently this grass had all the pollen in the world because I got massacred when I got home by allergies. My eyes were itchy, my nose was itchy. The roof of your mouth, how it gets itchy, like the throat. Oh, all of it, right? My ears even got it too. I was
Oh,
massacred.
damn.
Yeah, so at least it's better than like my fall allergies. My fall allergies, I get migraines at the end of it. So yeah.
Oh, snap. Well, I am born in Nigeria. I don't even know the first thing about allergies. So for me to be sneezing right now is just beyond. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I was never allergic to
Uh,
anything as a kid. So I'm really confused right now, but alas, we move. We move.
yeah. All
Um,
right, Joe Budden. Joe Budden. But yeah, get better though. By the way.
yeah, no problem, no problem. For me, the whole Joe Budden thing is a classic example of, three friends start a pod and one person's, I wouldn't say short-sightedness, but one person's ego essentially kind of takes over. Um, and he kind of like, once again, I think we have to be really careful with these things. It's trial by public is never an effective way of getting to the truth,
Yeah.
and we might never know the actual details of these contracts, but judging on what they've said so far, I just think it's an interesting case of a friendship and a podcast and a business being ruined by ego, and one person feeling like they're better or like they're the real like spearhead
They're the A
of.
side.
Yeah, exactly. They're the A side, and the other people are B sides, and as such, they should be treated as B sides, and how that can actually kind of throw you off. for me, I've been a long-term Joe Budden listener. Uh, I've listened for well over 5 years, and for me, it's disappointing not just to see the podcast end on such a bad note, but also it smacks to me of a hypocrisy in principles, in that we have a podcast which preaches ownership, preaches equitable business practices, preaches protecting the creator. And here you have a creator or a leader or whatever way you want to kind of slice it, basically doing the same thing to his friends. And you can make the argument that maybe his friends shouldn't feel entitled to equity, or maybe, there's a better way they could have gone about it. Sure. I mean, I'm open to those arguments. But for me, when it comes to like the principles of it, like I think like we've seen that essentially, people don't have no principles, man. People don't. I was saying this in one of my group chats. People don't honor anything. They don't honor their word. They don't honor their moral, their principles. They don't honor their contracts, even think that they're legally required to honor. And it's kind of like, where do we go from here? As not where do we go from here, but for me, it's an example just showing like certain people are built differently, man. Like certain people get it, and certain people just like they're in this for themselves, and they'll put money over anything: friendships, family, relationships, whatever. Money is more important than that. And I just want to put this as a PSA: if you are one of those people who would value money over anything, stay away from me, because me and you, we're not built the same. But anyway, Michael, what are your thoughts?
I value money over everything. No, look, it's a time. It's a couple things. One, I think the problem started when they left Spotify. And Joe
Let
was,
me
I think,
stop
a
you.
little too. Sorry,
Let me stop you, because it could seem like that on the
on the
surface. You
surface,
don't
yeah.
have to get too deep into it, because I'm one of the fools who paid the $2 to watch the Rory and Mal response. But it started way before that. It started from jump when they were getting sponsorship money, and people were like, "Okay, how are we gonna break this
Divvy
up?"
up the sponsorship money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've had internal discussions to that effect, and I can imagine how things look back then when you're breaking $1,500, $2,500 checks from MeUndies or whatever. But when you start talking about Spotify is trying to give you 10, 20 mil, and then you got to figure out how you're going to break that up and make it make sense, then like the conversations can be a little bit different, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, okay, fair enough. All right. So I will exit out that thought process. Um, but the other thing is, this is a time honored, tale oldest time thing. When you start a business with your friends, right, and one person thinks they do more than the other, it it goes south. It goes south when one person decides they're the leader. And this is why we've talked about. Look, I am in no position to give anybody advice on their podcast. We are a small podcast, but you can make it bigger with a subscription. Shameless plug. No, we are a
Like,
small
comment,
podcast,
subscribe.
right? Smash that subscribe button. But yeah, the problem comes when you make a podcast with your friends and you say, and no one establishes roles. And I've said numerous times in this on this thing that we are a collective. We are not. No one is above anyone on this podcast. And for all I know, we could go south in the next 2 years. Knock on wood, God forbid, because I actually like you guys. Um, but we could also, you know, do well with that kind of thought process. But you can also do well with leader, everybody else. You could do well in any format, but you have to establish roles. You have to establish an agreed upon rule set. And we don't know the Rory and Mal side if they did anything wrong, but it's like if you agree to X, Y, and Z, you follow X, Y, and Z because it's the right thing to do, whether you're higher or lower. And I always say when someone with business people, when they have a deal, the worst thing you could do is renegotiate that deal. So you have to know what the deal is from
For
the
sure.
jump.
And based on that though, like I mean, no, let's not get too deep into it, but I think it's everybody's right to renegotiate any deal as long as you have the information and evidence to support why you need to renegotiate. So I, for one, am not like any contract is up for renegotiation, in my humble opinion, although I'm not an expert. So
I mean, if I can say, like, there's okay, this is an interesting case, right? Of why I feel like renegotiation mid contract is, from at least from, I guess, a dirty conservative point of view, one of the worst possible things you could do. Call her daddy. Remember that podcast?
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Their problem started when they tried to renegotiate mid contract. Portnoy gave him a 3-year contract. And whatever your thoughts are about David Portnoy, or your thoughts about David Portnoy, right? Some people like him, some people hate him, some people are lukewarm, whatever. But he gave him a 3-year contract, right? It was, and by all accounts, it was a 3-year contract where the girls were getting jibbed. 100%. But, you know, they signed that contract. And then one of them, at least from the stories that you hear, didn't like the deal. Both of them didn't like the deal, but one of them was purposely trying to get out of the deal to work for somebody else and was being just not very receptive and not very. She wasn't making a good faith attempt at renegotiation, while the other one was, and it completely ruined them. Another podcast, well, I wouldn't say podcast, but YouTube channel that I'd like to bring up is Dan Plan, right? They also had kind of an issue with renegotiation because one of the members, I believe his name was Steven, was doing a lot of work and had a lot of ideas and wanted to know how the money was getting separated between Steven as opposed to the originals, because he was kind of a second generation guy. So now all of a sudden he's going to Dan, and Dan's like, I do not renegotiate. And he was hard line, and it ruined their friendship. And as a result, even some of the originals left their channel, and then he had to hire new guys, and it lost that friendship element of their channel. All I'm saying is, right, when you renegotiation is a weird, tricky thing, right? I'm not saying that's what happened in this one, but
for sure. And we see the same thing happen in MMA too. I mean, I can think of like a couple, more than a couple of instances where, fighters are signed in for X amount of money over the next X amount of fights,
mm-hmm.
and they feel like it's not representative of their true value. I'm not saying that's what happened in the Joe Budden situation. I generally think that was more of a friendship, and I think removing the money aside, I think after listening to the Joe Budden podcast episode where he basically fired his teammates on air, Joe Budden's got a lot of issues that he needs to figure out. Because that was just a super messed up thing to do to a friend. Like, forget the business partner thing. And I get everybody gets emotional when money's on the line. I get it. And ego can make you become a monster that you don't even recognize sometimes. But like, those were his friends, and he was basically saying, you guys were never my friends, which is crazy. Like, one of the dudes to live with you, one of the dudes came to your came to the hospital when your child was born, and your response is, I don't owe you guys anything. Like, that should show for me. I don't know, and I said this in one of my group chats earlier. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. You know what I mean? Like, here are dudes who have been there for you for decades before there was any money involved in this, and now that there's some money involved, like, you're moving funny. Forget even your dispute over the numbers. It's more just like you have chosen your international platform to besmirch these guys' name. Like, for me, that just shows a lack of character. That I'm surprised, because that's all those guys.
Joe Budden used to be the preacher of character, right? So it's
Man.
weird. I mean, I'll leave on this. There's a saying out there that the measure of a man is how they treat people when they don't think they need them.
Facts.
Right?
I love that.
Take that with what you will. Apply to this situation.
I love that. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for humoring me with this conversation. And sorry for all the MMA fans who are usually here for our crisp, sharp takes on MMA and our analysis. There's going to be none of that today. I'm sorry. You've only got Michael and I. So
yeah. The other two I fired off air. You know, they're tough. No, I'm kidding.
They kept asking for the numbers for the books, and I was just like sick of hearing it, you know? Um,
Joe
okay.
Budden, you know how Joe Budden's veins always have his neck?
Yes.
That was
I need to get me one of those V-neck t-shirts, like a white beater they call it. I'll get one of those and just start screaming, "Look at the splits!" Hilarious. And once again, this is the same Joe Budden who cried over the De La Soul splits. Like, are you kidding me? You can't cry saying that artists deserve more money out of their contracts and then try and screw your own homies over your contract. Like, I mean, for me, it's just weird. Anyway, I want to move on. Because
all right.
I don't understand the hypocrisy that's going on in life these days. But I guess, if no one's gonna live by their morals, then so be it. Anyway,
All right.
okay, before we get into the card, is there any news you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, a couple points. And speaking of renegotiation and money, John Jones and Dana White have had another kerfuffle. Wow, that's a hell of a word, kerfuffle. But yeah, basically, Dana White has said two things. One is that if John Jones doesn't want to fight, which means, aka, if John Jones outprices himself, Stipe Miocic will get the next shot after Derek Lewis. And two, John Jones's future, if he can fight this summer, he can fight this summer, or he can never fight again. Before I say my thoughts, David, what say you?
Can he legally stop John Jones from fighting again if he's under contract? That's just an open. You don't have to have the answer, but that's just an open question. Like, can you actually say either you fight this summer or you never fight again? I'm not sure he can do that. Dana White.
Technically, I've never seen a UFC contract, but the way they break it down is, yeah, he essentially can.
Okay. I will be interesting to see whether that holds up
In court.
in court, because that sounds like a non-compete, an antitrust violation to me. Anyway, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, but that just sounds kind of weird. Honestly, it's bully ball tactics from Dana White. What do you expect? I do think John Jones needs to come back. If Conor McGregor, there was recently a news story about Conor McGregor being the highest paid athlete over the past year, although I think that probably has to do with something, some of the business transaction. Yeah, and the Proper 12 sale that he made. But regardless, it shows that there are a couple of dudes making money in this. And if John Jones cares about being a UFC fighter, then he should come back and negotiate with Dana White. I think Dana White has shown what kind of negotiator he is. He's shown he doesn't mind playing
shrewd
or hardball. Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes it's a good thing. Honestly, sometimes it's a good thing. You can't be, what's the word I'm looking for? As a businessman, you have to be like that sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
I mean, I'll say this. Look, here's my thing. Then why don't you release him and let him fight at Bellator? Right? If you feel like he's not worth this much money, like X amount of money, right? And he doesn't want to fight because he feels like he's worth X amount of money, then why don't you release him and let him fight at Bellator? What's the problem?
He has a contract to fulfill. He has a current contract to fulfill, which he's not willing to do. So
right, but Dana White's also not willing to work with him, right? And so all we keep hearing is, right, and this is what Dana White says, is he's not really worth that much. We pay him a lot of money for what he does. I'm looking at the numbers of what the disclosed pay is. So unless there's something happening under the table, I'm seeing 500K, 250K. I'm not seeing anything that suggests to me. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and that's good money, like that's good money. But John Jones, other than Khabib, is the pinnacle of the sport. Yeah. So he deserves the most money in the sport. Like, as lame as it sounds, whether he's the most entertaining to watch, whether he does the best PPV numbers, that's a different debate. But when it comes to true sporting ability, other than Khabib, John Jones is the pinnacle of the sport right now, at least, and has been for decades. So, or for at least a decade. Yeah. So, and it's weird because if you don't remember, a short 3, 4, 5 years ago, the entire MMA community was against John Jones. We called him spoiled, we called him entitled, we called him like a bad champion, all kind of stuff. But in this case, I just feel like he's right, and he really should be paid not whatever, but he should be paid a fair percentage or paid a fair amount of compensation for what he's pretty much sacrificing.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, look, if the number is ridiculous, then the number is ridiculous. But like, if I'm hearing 30 million is not unreasonable
Not
for a fight
ridiculous.
that
Not ridiculous.
like what do you think Francis Ngannou and Francis Ngannou and John Jones is gonna do? Like how much money do you think that's gonna make?
I don't know.
Like
We
sorry,
can keep it simple.
how many pay-per-view buys do you think it's gonna have?
Let's say 1 million, and we times 1 million times $100,
That's
because that's
guys,
what
like plus
PPV is.
sponsorships, plus
Let's not even say sponsorship. Let's like just 1 million times $100, and then look at his split from that. Like I don't know, man. I
like
don't know the business of the UFC. I don't know how much it costs to run an event. I don't know what kind of licensing fees they have to pay, what kind of commission fees they have to pay. I don't know all of that, but insurance probably is a big
yeah.
chunk of that. But at the same time, I do think like it's getting to like a pushing point where it's hard to enjoy the sport when you see so many cases of
I'm
fighters.
seeing I'm seeing 9K to show a 9K to win. Guys, I make more than that. I go home and I make more than that. What are we
Yeah,
talking about?
but you're not fight. I mean, most fighters are trying to pull like three to. The argument is that there's some fighters doing 3 to 5 fights per year. So like if you're stacking 20K per fight, like that's a little bit of chump change. That's a little bit of
Yeah,
change, you
no,
know.
that's a lot of money, but like if you're, and I hate to say it, if you're like uh, I'm not gonna name names, but let's say you're a fighter who's, a jobber. Let's be honest, you're there to lose. And you get 9, 18, 27, right? And no bonuses after.
Yeah,
Like a regular person off the street is making more than a professional fighter on TV for a company worth $4.2 billion, and
yeah,
you're
that
on
is.
ESPN. How's that look good? Like explain how if my kid wants to go to MMA and they're already in a backdoor, you're already in a losing battle to get these athletic kids because your sport is legalized fighting, right? No parent wants their kid to do that.
Mhm.
Right? Some commissions are still banning MMA at the amateur level. Okay?
It's even deeper than Michael. Like, how do you expect to convince young kids who are trying to make their way in this world and trying to make money? Let's not kid
Yeah.
ourselves. Like,
So
athletes want to make money. Like,
right.
how are you
So
going to
how
convince the best athletes to do your sport when you're jipping them at the top?
that's what I'm saying, right? It's like how do I like how does my kid convince a parent? Like, what I'm saying? How's a kid who
Yeah,
really wants to fight convince his parents that he's on the right path if you're paying him 9 and 9? You know what I'm saying?
it's just not right, man. I agree. But
50 and 50. Like it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And for
yeah,
what? For them to end up like Spencer Fisher? Like is that what we're talking about?
that's what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, let's say you're even a regular fighter. You don't know which fight is going to end. Let's not even say career, end your year. You don't know. It could be your first fight of the year. It could be your second fight of the year. You don't know which one you're going to get knocked out or injured, and that's you in crutches and having to pay an expensive medical bill for the next year, 2 years. Who knows? So
Right.
I
And
get
then
it.
you end up like Jessica Penne, who God bless her soul, has to make an OnlyFans. Like what are we talking about? Like, and again, that's not John Jones. John Jones has made a lot of money. There's a lot of pay-per-view points. There's a lot of discretionary bonuses. Sure. Understandable. But if this fight's gonna do what we think it's gonna do, I think it has real potential for 2 million buys.
Yeah,
Real potential.
real.
If it's gonna make 2 million buys, right? 30 million is super reasonable.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
super reasonable. And so if that's the number, like I don't understand. Now look, Dana White can always say 25 million, take it or leave it. And I'm okay with that too. That's
I
him
don't think
being a
Dana White is
businessman.
even willing to go as high as 10 million. And
And
once
that's
again,
my problem. And
yeah.
that's my problem. Right? Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, we don't know the numbers, so really we're just speculating. And UFC, if you want to cut us a check, then please do. But here on the podcast, we like to keep it real, and I just think we just need to advocate more for paying the fighters more.
Dog, it's
It's
ridiculous. Like
getting ridiculous.
how do we grow the sport at the grassroots? I'm a big advocate of kids shouldn't fight, but how do we grow the sport at a grassroots level if you're already doing legalized fighting, right? It's already legalized fighting, so parents are not going to be for that. Commissions don't even support it at the amateur level, so that kid has to travel like upwards to like 5 hours. Like in Ontario, for example, if a kid wants to do amateur mixed martial arts, they got to go to the next province over, whether it's Quebec or God bless their soul, if they really want to try it, they got to go New York or Detroit to fight, right? So they're already in that behind the back battle there. So that means they have to take days off of work. They can't just fight on the Saturday or whatever, right? And when they finally make it to the top, you're gonna give them 9-9, 9-9.
Crazy, crazy. After how many years of struggling to make it to the top? Like,
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. Gone are the days where you can be like 4-0
no,
and
yeah,
go to the UFC.
yeah. You pretty much have to be almost like the complete package, or at least on your way to becoming like you have to be a pro for a certain number of years and have a certain number of fights these days before you can even be considered elite.
Right? It's like how do we grow the sport if you're not gonna, I've gone
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Good.
Let us know what you think. If you're listening to this, let us know what you think. Do you think the fighters are underpaid? Do you think John Jones should just accept whatever money is being given to him?
If he gets 10 million, that is a disgrace in the front. I keep talking. I'm sorry, David. Go
No,
ahead. I
go
keep it.
ahead. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, no. I think let us know if you think maybe we need some kind of intervention, whether it's from the government, whether it's from some kind of sporting body that's gonna find a way for a more equitable distribution of whatever income comes out of the UFC, because it's coming to the point where the UFC is synonymous with MMA, and you can make an argument that yeah, they can do whatever they want as an independent company, but they want to be synonymous with MMA, so they should be regulated like they are synonymous with MMA, in my opinion. Like somebody needs to tell them like this is how you divvy up the money, because like they can't be trusted to do it themselves. I'm sorry. Um,
Yeah.
anyway,
Um.
do you
Okay.
have any other topics?
Yeah. Quick little kind of news here. Dana White. I hate to harp on Dana, but he blocked the GSP versus Oscar De La Hoya fight. Uh, for a boxing match that was supposedly going to happen. He blocked that from happening. I believe it was. I don't know the reasons for it per se, but he just didn't want to.
How can you even do that? I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but like, how can you even do that? Is GSP still under contract?
I think the idea was is that well, I think GSP is still under contract, but I think the idea was just to spite Oscar De La Hoya. I think
No,
it
I get
really
it. I get it, but it's kind of like,
it
sorry,
is kind of
literally
weird that he
reading
was able to
up
do
on this.
it.
Yeah, it doesn't like make sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
Cynthia remains under contract with the UFC, which is common practice for retired fighters. You see, like there in itself, there's a problem, man. Like
no,
you
but
can't
like
even
that's why I
make
was
money
saying
once you're
like yeah.
done. Like, come on, you can't even make money once you're done. Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't want to see this fight, and I actually think like this was the
I'm
right
about to
fight.
say,
I actually
I'm about to
think
say this is he's doing the Lord's work here. I'm not.
no, for sure. I mean, to give him credit, like this was the right move. Having watched that Jake Paul versus oh my goodness,
Bro.
Chris Van Aspen fight where De La Hoya was not good that night. He was not good and definitely should seek some kind of help, in my opinion. Um, yeah.
See, the worst thing an addict can do is make $300 million the way
Oh,
he has.
for
Oh
sure.
my God.
My God. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like even that, like how can GSP, the most accomplished fighter in your sport, somebody who gave your sport relevance in the dark ages, let's call it what it was, like between what 29, 20.
In fairness, he wasn't the guy that got him out of the Dark Ages, but he definitely was a guy who was a contributing factor
Sure.
from the tough boom to the corporate era. He
Yeah,
was definitely a contributing factor of pushing him forward because
exactly.
there was a lot of guys who were not made for corporate. Diaz brothers, BJ Penn, Mayhem Miller, Bisbing, old school Bisbing. There was a lot of guys who were not made for that kind of lifestyle, and there was GSP, clean cut and tailored suits, didn't say
Ready
a
to
bad
play
word
ball.
about anybody,
Yeah,
right? Corporate, white bread, Canadian boy, who would be on who would be on ESPN commercials.
bro. Who the reason MMA is so big in Canada? I would argue, I would love to see, what are the most popular MMA markets out there. I would say Canada has to be right up there
Yeah.
with like Brazil, the UK, wherever really, Russia. I'm struggling to think of many others, but like I would say Canada is right up there in terms of at least like dollar spent on the UFC. So the reason the UFC even has relevance in Canada, in my opinion, is because of guys like GSP. So it's kind of weird that you have a case of GSP's retired, like even before retired, GSP wants to fight Khabib, he can't fight Khabib. He wants to retire, okay, fine, and he now wants to fight in post retirement, and you're saying like you're under contract. Like, is it like a full 360 combat contract,
So
or is
what
it?
the contracts are essentially from how it's been broken down. I've never seen the legalese of it. Um, and despite the fact that my parents really wanted me to, I never became a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. But
Hilarious.
essentially the contract is X amount of money for X amount of fights, and you get this much per fight. If you do not get those amount of fights in that specific year, the UFC is obligated to pay you X amount of money. Unless you decide to retire, then they freeze your contract.
But that's my question. What does a fight count as? How is a boxing exhibition match the same as a sanctioned UFC fight? Like,
Because it
how is
has to
that
be
the
under
same?
the UFC banner. Like,
No, but why would it have to happen under the UFC banner? It would be a Triller fight. It wouldn't even be a UFC fight.
and that's why it's not allowed. That's why he can block it because it's
How can you block it? The two fights aren't the same. One is an exhibition, one is a
because a no
professional
compete.
bout.
Because and this is where this is where having perspective really matters. If you put in a no compete clause, then you can do that, right? So you're an independent contractor, but a no compete clause can lock you down. Now again, I don't know what clause they actually put in. I'm assuming it's the no compete complete because, economics 101. But yeah, like that's what they can do. Like I hate to say it, but he played his
Signed the
hand really
contract.
smart here.
He signed the
Sorry?
contract. I mean, to be fair, GSP signed the contract,
Yeah.
and you kind of have to live under the conditions of the contract or terms, I should say. But at the same time, like, how is that a fair agreement where you can't even make money off a sham boxing match anymore? Like,
He did the Lord's work there. I'm not gonna
I know, I know, I know. I don't want to be too critical.
like as much as look, it's the principle of the thing. The
It's a
principle of the thing is
principle.
ridiculous. Is ridiculous. But in this specific instance, it's he's a-okay with this one. I'm not gonna lie. Um, you know, I will say though, and this is why I feel like I'm a broken record because I say this once every 10 episodes, but this is why I really like Andrew Yang and I really wanted his ideas about not contractor contracts was really smart. He was going to take a look at it and really limit the no complete clause. And I was like, yeah. If only he knew worth a damn about foreign policy. But everything else,
Hilarious. This is not a political pod,
no,
Michael.
I know. I'm
This
just saying.
guy, man. If
I,
only he
I'm
would
an
just
Andrew
bomb
Yang
those
stan.
other foreigners. Yeah, I get you, Michael. I see you.
I'm an Andrew Yang stan. Right? Like he's a Republican in Democrats' clothing.
Oh,
Man
jeez.
after my own
Okay.
heart. Okay. Aaron Buller wins the World MMA Heavyweight title in one championship.
Nice.
And this is significant for a lot of things. One, he is the first heavyweight champion of Indian descent in any major MMA organization. So I would say I would count the big three, even PFL in there, and he's the first one.
Distinction.
So
sure, yeah, that's good.
Really impressive. But the other thing too is that he's a Canadian boy.
Yeah.
Rich see. So I thought he was from Calgary, to be honest, but like that's a mistake on my part. I think that was the other Bular. But
there's a lot of Bular. There's also a Sim Bular, if you remember.
Oh, I interviewed him once. If you're willing to hear that story about how like he nearly fought me. But
Please.
Yeah.
Please just get that out, and we'll get to the actual fight soon, guys.
Yeah.
But
yeah, basically I made an error because he had a good game, but he had a rough time. Simbular had a rough time getting up and down the court. Because he's 7 foot, 350 pounds. It is what it is. Well, he could have been 320 at the time, but the point is that he was a big guy. And what was he? 7'4", 7'5", 350? Like he was a big dude.
It says on Wikipedia. It says on Wikipedia he is 7'5". That's a big
7'5", 350, right?
And really, you're trying to scrap that dude?
No, I wasn't trying to scrap that dude, right? I was being a professional. So I'm covering the Raptors 905, and I thought it was pretty apparent that's his first game back, and his legs aren't going to be under him, but as they get under him, and he goes and does his workouts and stuff like that, because he got signed like literally before the season started. Like it wasn't like he was in camp with these guys, right? But he had like 15, 10, and 4 blocks. Like he was doing okay, and yeah, but he had a hard time getting up and down the court. So I talked to him. I was like, hey, it was like we had a couple interviews back and forth. Really friendly guy, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, so do you expect to even do better now once you get your conditioning under you and stuff like that? And I guess he took that a little hard, right?
Don't talk about my conditioning, bro. Don't talk about my conditioning. As somebody with terrible cardio, don't talk about my conditioning.
No, like it's because like I thought it was pretty obvious. Like I would have struggled to get up and down the court. Like in my first game back in a high level basketball game. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody would. It is nothing to do with anything. So there it was, and he got upset, right? But he got upset in a very nice and friendly way, in the sense that like he kind of gave like my conditioning has nothing to do with it, right? It's just like we're playing a game and my style is different. I was like, all right. It was an excuse, but it's not.
Yeah, conditioning probably definitely had something to do with it, but he also has the right to be defensive. So
no, he has the right to be defensive because it's like he thought I was alluding to the fact that he's 350 pounds at the time, and it's like, no, I'm just saying that like it's your first game back, you're not going to be in shape. But then it's hilarious because the year after the Raptors get another guy similar, but can actually run up and down the court, in Eddie Tavares. And they win the championship.
Yeah, the G League championship.
So what does it say? But anyway, I'm not going to blame Simbular.
Yeah, we're talking about Aryan Bular, not even Simbular.
Yeah, Aryan Bular, congratulations. He beat Brandon Vera, I believe, second round TKO, and then said he wanted to go to pro wrestling after, which I say, please do not.
Jeez.
Please do not. But it's always nice to see a Canadian champion.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, and that's it for MMA news. That got really kind of long, but
good, whatever. Glad we could talk about some of these things in a little bit more detail than usual. Okay, so last night we had a great card, UFC 262 at the Toyota Center. Another packed house. We had Charles Boys. Jeez, it's Michael made a comment before this podcast that after 7:30, this podcast.
You guys are terrible. Like, man, I've always said after 7:30. Like, you guys are terrible. Stefano has like ADHD, so he's like a squirrel. Jeremy is just gone after 7 o'clock. And yeah, no one can speak after 7:30.
Yeah, my brain is just done. Anyway, we have Charles Do Bronx Oliveira versus Michael. What's Michael Chandler's nickname?
Iron Mike Chandler.
Iron Mike. I like that. Iron Michael Chandler.
Jeremy
Uh,
made a comment mid thing. It's like the only Iron Mike is Mike Tyson. And I was like, you're forgetting about Mike Sharp, big dog.
Michael, what did you think about this fight? Um, yeah, what do you think about this fight? Give
Man,
me your technical breakdown of this fight.
it's really a shame that Stefano's not here because I think there was a lot of tricks that he would have actually really liked. And a lot of things that we could have discussed, particularly with the ground game and Michael Chandler making some decisions that were questionable, but being
It
athletic enough.
worked. It
Huh?
worked for him. I thought
Yeah,
Michael Chandler, when it came to the ground game, I thought that he was very willing to engage in grappling exchanges with Oliveira. What's clear is Oliveira definitely had the grappling advantage to me
exactly.
because when they were on their feet, it wasn't actually kind of in that first round, it wasn't that close. Like Michael Chandler was figuring something out, and his power was definitely giving him problems. But when they actually got like into grappling exchanges, I can't. I would say that Oliveira did
He
seem to be leading the dance a little bit more, but Michael Chandler was right there. Reversed him a couple of times, ended up on top towards the end of the first round, and really made a good account of himself as like a skilled grappler the other
Yeah,
day.
a couple things too is that, I think Charles Oliveira clearly is half the fighter going backwards as he is going forwards, clearly. But a couple things he tried to do to mitigate that was a having kind of putting that front leg out in front or even the rear leg sometimes to kind of stymie Michael Chandler from going to the body, right? So how Michael Chandler likes to divvy up the pressure is he will go down to the body and throw that trademark right cross downstairs in order to get under his opponents because he's a very small boy in terms of height, right? And so he'll get under them to now make them worry, and he'll kind of do an MMA version of the peekaboo, right? And get guys to go backwards where he can then impose his will because he's very fast and explosive. And what Charles Oliveira tried to do was he get that knee up so that if Chandler was going to go downstairs, he didn't time it all that well, but if he was going to go downstairs, boom, there was the knee waiting for him. And if Chandler doesn't go downstairs, he can just parlay that into a teep. So he had kind of that Muay Thai stance where he was kind of just, waiting for Michael Chandler to do something and he get that leg out there. And the best thing about that is because he is a jiu-jitsu black belt, one of the best jiu-jitsu players in the division, hell, in the entire UFC, at least when it comes to the MMA game. If he gets taken down, okay, right? Like, so he can afford to kick a little bit. So that was interesting.
I did think once again, in the wrestling exchanges, Chandler probably had the better opportunities there. If I'm not mistaken, there was a guillotine
Attempt,
attempt
right?
in the first round, right? That was Chandler, right?
Yeah. So that was another questionable decision, and that was questionable. See, I feel like this fight. I feel like a lot of people are a little more charitable to Michael Chandler than I'd like to be, because he did do well, and that's a thing, right? Like from just like a damage inflicted and things done to each other perspective, he did really well. But he made a couple questionable decisions, and one was the guillotine. And the reason why I say the guillotine was a questionable decision is because he had Charles Oliveira hurt, right? So why not do a sprawl that you were clearly going to do, right? That stab Charles Oliveira back up and inflict more damage.
No, that guillotine was tight, man. That guillotine was tight, and I think against another fighter, he would have submitted him.
But he
Like
also didn't
genuinely.
pull guard. So it's like,
He did not. He did not pull guard, which did not help his case. He kind of just like held on to that thing and was like, like
right?
squeezed.
At the very least, there is a way to do it where you can kind of elevate. It's like a butterfly hook and then like an over top kind of guard. I can't remember the technical term for it, but basically what you have is you have a butterfly hook on the inside part of the far leg, and
Mhm.
then you have the um the leg on the guillotine, basically the other side. So the short leg side, you'll have that leg over the top, and it kind of acts as like a barrier. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
basically
yeah.
doing is elevating. And to Michael Chandler's credit, he tried it, but Charles Oliveira got past the knee and cleared the knee
Yeah,
line. So
yeah.
now it just turned into half guard where Michael Chandler's just trying to fish it back in, and it didn't work out for him. He would have done a lot better off just saying, "Oh, you're gonna take me down. I'm gonna fake the sprawl for 2 seconds, and then fall to my back and pull guard."
Sure,
But
fair. But to
I
be
mean,
fair, Oliveira did really well to come out of that guillotine attempt. I thought like it was sunk in pretty deep, and against a lot of other fighters, I think like they would have tapped. One thing I would say about Michael Chandler, man, his speed and
blind.
it's actually mind blowing because like these dudes are fighting other tough guys, but you can tell like there's just a difference when Michael Chandler is like wilding on dudes, and just a difference in terms of his speed because honestly, Charles Oliveira isn't the slowest fighter, I would say. Like he's got pretty nifty hands and his technique. Oh man, his Muay Thai kickboxing technique is a
Just
thing of beauty, man.
uh you
Oh
know what I
man,
like about him? You want to know what I like about him?
slick.
I mean,
What?
slick, but here's the thing: no overextension,
No,
right?
none. That's what I mean. Slick, like so smooth. Like even like when I will talk about it later. When he's landing like those finishing blows, like the finishing hook. Like he's not like loading up and like doing wild swings. He's like still technical with it, and that I appreciated.
Right.
I do think against a fighter like Michael Chandler, it might not work all the time because that's how Michael Chandler kind of got him in that first round. He thought, or Oliveira thought he would be safe if he just kept a high guard, kept his distance. As I said, use his teeps, use his jabs, which I feel like he did a really good job of in the first round, and use his leg kicks because the leg kicks were actually landing as well.
Effective, right?
And once again, Michael Chandler showed no interest in checking them. Like not not
That's a Michael Chandler staple for you.
uh,
Right?
not one not one idea or one iota in his mind of checking that leg kick. But yeah, I felt like he was
Single
doing.
takedowns on it, so it's like, why are you not checking one? Like, what's the problem?
Just don't get it. I just don't get it. Maybe I want to say it's a pride thing. I don't know. Maybe it's an in-game thing. I don't know why he wasn't checking them, but he wasn't checking them. Um, and yeah, I felt like Oliveira was doing a good job of like keeping him on the end. But once Michael Chandler figured out how to get inside and start landing some shots, like it was a problem. And more specifically, even with the high guard, Michael Chandler was because he rarely throws, other than like as you said, that straight to the body, which I think more fighters should use, in my humble opinion, but I get why they don't in a kicking sport. I think he was doing really well in punching around the guard, if that makes any sense. He was throwing hooks, and that kind of eventually that landed, and he caught Charles Oliveira in that first round and almost like finished him, like both like in a submission and also like on the feet as well. Like it
Yeah.
looked really close, and shouts out to the referee for not stopping him because
Uh, Big
I was
Dan.
watching it with some people, and they were like, "Man, if that was Herb, like that was done." And I love Herb, but I couldn't argue with them
Yeah,
on the day. I was like,
Big Dan, I gotta give him credit because Big Dan's done it a couple times where he's let guys go when he feels like they should let him go, and it kind of works out to his credit. The big example is our boy Czech Congo versus Pat Barry, right? Where he really let go, although it was a different era, it was a different time back then. But yeah, okay. So this is where I actually kind of get critical on Charles Oliveira, and once these guys get mad at me and say like and talk shit about my career because they really could. You could poke holes in a lie in my game, but. Charles Oliveira doesn't move his head at all,
"No,
right? He
no,
doesn't move his head at all. So if you can get around the guard, you're basically gonna hit your target. You're gonna hit your target, and this is why he is half the fighter going backwards that he is going forward because there is no kind of slick head movement counter that you have to worry about, which is ironic because the finishing sequence he actually kind of displayed some head movement there, so it's interesting, but yeah, Charles Oliveira gets gets hit and gets hurt twice. One time when Chandler goes for a submission, it was tight. The other time when Chandler hits him up against the cage and drops him, and Charles Oliveira does something that a lot of people do, but like they do differently. They go to their instincts. Most people's instincts, at least most
yeah,
fighters' instincts, is to try and grab a leg, go for a single leg, go up against them and do whatever. Charles Oliveira goes to his instincts, and his instinct is to pull guard. So in the ironic twist of fate, being a guard puller actually kind of helped him out a little bit because it kept his head away from the punches of the shorter Chandler, right?
In a way, though, he did initially try to go for the legs. He was like bending down and eating so many shots, man. He was eating
Oh my
so
God.
many, like from Michael Chandler too, like so many unadulterated shots. Um, and then yeah, eventually he kind of like pulled guard, and maybe that could be a critique or criticism on Michael Chandler. Maybe he could have handled that situation a little bit smarter. But I think credit to Charles Oliveira, he showed like a toughness to survive, and that's the benefit, as I was saying yesterday, benefit of jujitsu. Like once you're getting outclassed on the feet, like the guy still has to follow you down to finish you. And if you
Yeah.
can grab a limb, grab something, and kind of like ride the
But
wave for
see,
like 10 seconds, then you got a shot.
but this is why I go into questionable decision number, I think 3 at this point with Michael Chandler is why didn't you stand him up?
Yeah, and that one he could have. But then again, like you're about to finish the dude. Like he was so close. Like I feel like if you
I
let
understand,
five
but
more unanswered shots, like that was a wrap, man. But once again, Oliveira
but
did
to
a
pull
really good job of just like kind of drawing him in, tangling him up, and then riding the wave for the next
but
few seconds.
even when he was in the guard though, David, don't you notice a couple times when Chandler got up, got out of the guard, and then tried to bomb on him again? It's like, no, no, get out, get get out, stand him up. Like,
No, I mean, I really think Michael Chandler is just one of those dudes who wants to like smash and destroy. So I get it. He's not gonna play.
yes.
I mean, I do think if he had kept it on the feet a little bit more, then he would have had a better chance. But it's hard to say that also because fine, the round ends. Oliveira is dazed. They go into the second round, and basically instantly, it's like a different fighter. It's like a different fighter came out in that second round, and Oliveira just out techniques it. Like
You know
that's
what?
all it was. Like
I said to my girl, I was like, yo, they played that My Hero Academia theme song in the back. You know the one where like it gets people like super hype?
yeah, literally, it might have been like "Don't Stop Believing" in the background, something, man, because he was just like he came out
I
like a man on a mission, man, and yeah, a lot of people wouldn't sit and trade with Michael Chandler, but it felt like to me he was almost like, you know what,
we're doing this
F
again.
this. Like, I'm done trying to out technique this dude. I'm done trying. I think DC said like, oh, every time he steps heavy on that front foot, like he's gonna get beat up. You have to be light. Oh no, that was another fight. But I'm done trying to be like light and trying to Dan Hooker my way around this and be kind of super technical. I'm just gonna stand here in this pocket and swing, and we're gonna see what's up. And he caught him. Like
Yeah.
he caught him.
God
And
bless him. God bless him.
yo,
Man, what's that one song in that Will Smith Ali movie? You know the one where he's being George Foreman? They played that one in the back.
never watched that movie, man.
Huh?
I've never watched that movie, man.
You
Is it
gotta
good?
watch it. There's like this song in the back. It goes like tomorrow, honey, tomorrow. It's like Will Smith is just punching George Foreman's character. It was man. They must have played that because like he came out inspired in that
Yeah,
second round, man.
yeah,
Inspired. And yeah, it was one of the few times he actually displayed head movement in his career. He
yeah.
he slips. I believe he slipped a jab and he landed his own jab. Then he no, he slipped a cross and landed
Yeah,
his own
landed his own
cross,
cross, and then he came
right?
back to the hook.
And then he came back with a hook as Michael Chandler moves back, and Charles Oliveira ironically stands his ground, which you would have thought would be the opposite, like the other way around. So
Hmm.
while Michael Chandler moves back to land his hook, Charles Oliveira stands his ground and lands this clean, pretty hook with, and I have to say this, a lot of fighters, the hand drops. Charles Oliveira right to the cheek.
Right to the. That's what I'm saying, man. His
Right,
technique is so
right to the
good,
So I gotta give him credit on that one. Like just and
and
and yeah, like
not
that was
once, man. Because Michael Chandler stumbles, does a good job of kind of recovering, kind of exchanging a couple shots, um, and dodging a few shots, honestly, and blocking a few shots. But eventually, as he's like, retreating against the cage, Oliveira again hits him with another picture perfect hook. Like
Right.
first the straight, which kind of like sends him into the cage, but as he's like retreating, another picture perfect hook to the face, and it was over after that, man.
Yeah.
Like, bro, what a performance! What a fight! It was a great fight too. Like
Man, it was
that's why
fun.
I'm finding it hard to be critical about Chandler because on another night he would have won that fight. But Oliveira just in that second round just came out with something to prove, and
Yeah.
here we are, man. Like, damn, anybody can get caught in this sport.
No, it's just I see. This is the thing. I hate to be like a Michael Chandler hater. I'm just saying there was a lot of decisions. I guess maybe it's the benefit of hindsight. I'm saying these things, but there's a lot of decisions that he made that I would have been like, why?
Yeah,
Even in the fight, I was like, maybe you should have got to have his guard. Like, remember Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns?
sure,
And
yes,
remember how Kamaru Usman hurt Gilbert Burns hurt Kamaru Usman, but Kamaru Usman was able to land a takedown. And what did Kamaru Usman do? To waste time, he got out of his guard, body jab, and kicks to the leg while Gilbert Burns was on his back. Right? Gave himself time and got back up. Right? Which leads me to believe that Michael Chandler might have actually been tired for the start of the second round. Right? Because he exploded so much. I don't know if he was. No one will ever know. And like we didn't see huffing and puffing. But
no, he didn't seem like uber fatigued.
yeah, but I feel like he could have been because he wasted so much energy, and if for nothing else, it could have benefited for him to get a bit of a respite to just you know get
Yeah,
out.
I get it, I get it. But I
So
mean, sorry, go on.
I'm not. No, my whole point is I'm not trying to be critical because he did do really well. He
Yeah,
landed good shots. He showed good technique. He was very good on it, getting under Charles Oliveira. Right? It's just fight IQ decisions there was a little questionable. And I would say moving forward, a lot of people should look at those leg kicks as a staple against them
yeah,
because
sure.
he's
Although
not
I gotta
checking.
say, man, sorry, go on. Sorry, go
No,
on.
that's it. That's it.
I was gonna say, I gotta say, man, even though you're right, the leg kicks will be like he's got to start checking some leg kicks, in my humble opinion. Sorry, Mike, like you're a great fighter. Check some leg kicks. Um, he's such a bad matchup for so many people in this division. Like
I
such a
know.
bad matchup. Like he would have won that fight last night, and I would have had no complaints because like his striking, even though it's simple, it's effective. He's clearly got as much power as anybody in the division, as fast as like some of the faster than some of the fighters in the division downwards and like the bantamweights, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, man, it's just gonna be interesting to see who he faces next and who can take the title away from Oliveira. Because if you are bringing in the skill set that all that Chandler was bringing, and I was thinking yesterday, like even like this imaginary fight against Khabib, Oliveira versus Khabib, in my humble opinion, would not be very competitive. That's not to take away from Oliveira as champion because I think he fully deserves it. But Khabib's just style was weird. The interesting one was Khabib versus Chandler.
Hmm.
But once again, after seeing that fight, like man,
Because
it
could,
puts
could do you feel Habib could take a right hand from Chandler? Like, could he? I mean,
yeah, I think he could. And as soon as it gets into the wrestling exchanges, the grappling exchanges, as you said, that fight IQ is going to take over because Chandler had Oliveira hurt, man. He had him hurt. It was just a case of Oliveira survived, rode the wave, and was able to come out on top in the
do you
end.
think? Do you think like that fight could have been stopped there when Charles Oliveira was hurt?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think it could have been. I was okay with it going on, and we'll talk a little bit about referee stoppages in I think the Edson Barbosa fight because that was ridiculous. But it could have gone on a little bit longer. I was okay with the way it went on. I had no problem with Chandler stoppage. Like when Chandler was down, he was down. Like that was it.
Yeah, yeah, he was
Uh,
out. He was
but
out.
like I was okay with like because he was moving, he was trying to defend himself. He wasn't blocking a lot. I'm gonna be honest. Like he wasn't like,
Yeah,
but he was at least moving, trying to survive. So
despite enough intelligent defense, just enough.
I wouldn't call it intelligent, but well,
I
intelligent in terms
think
of I can do it. If that was me, I'm out. But for him, it was smart in that he's like moving his head. He's looking for a limb. Like he was doing just like borderline just enough, in my opinion. So yeah, shouts out to him.
yeah.
Um,
I guess
Any
we'd
more
have to
thoughts on
talk
that?
about.
So good.
I guess we'd have to talk about the next fight because we do have a question regarding, post like who's facing who next, right? I believe.
Yeah, I was gonna do a listener question for that. Sorry, ask the listener question, but since we've only got one, we can ask that right now. In fact,
All right.
okay. So our question from Rob Prodomani. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for asking questions. Shouts
Oh,
out to
by the
Rob
way,
Prodomani.
little
Pardon?
trivia. He's a former War Gods champion for the middleweight
Awesome,
division. Yeah.
man. We love fighters here. If you want to talk to us, Rob, we always have an open ear. We're always listening. So please come talk to us. So Rob asked, is Chandler Gaethje and Oliveira versus the winner of either McGregor and Poirier the next logical fights for the 155 division? Let me break that up into two parts. Is Chandler Gaethje the next title fight?
I really want to see that because
Or
if anybody can take a shot from Chandler, it's Gaethje.
man, that's gonna be a war. It's gonna be
Yeah.
a war. Who do you think wins that one?
Gaethje because Chandler can't check a leg kick and Gaethje has the hardest leg kick in the division.
You know
So
what? I
like,
didn't think about that. I didn't think about that.
but like I do think it is going to be competitive. I just don't think it's going to be as competitive as people are putting it out to be. Because Gaethje, has backed off of the warness off of just a hair, just enough that like he can fight technical. He can fight like with some boxing movement, and he's got good movement, like low key, but he still kicks like a baseball bat is
Yeah.
going to your legs. And if Chandler's going to keep that wide stance, like I get why it's hard to check the leg kick. You have a wide stance and you're so like front leg heavy,
Mhm.
it's going to be there. But we've seen it against guys like I think Primus got him. Brett Primus hit him with was it Primus or Rickles? No, it was Primus. Hit him with a leg kick right across the knee, and Michael Chandler was done. He was done
Mhm. Mhm.
because he keeps that wide stance. And if Primus is getting you, imagine what Justin Gaethje was going to get you. Now, granted, that Primus fight was a long time ago, but if he's getting you,
Yeah, man.
Gaethje,
You don't even want
baseball
to
bat
check it,
Gaethje.
man. Just move or something. Like you can't just stand. I get the pressure, but like, man, if yeah, you can't just stand in front of Justin Gaethje thinking you're gonna pressure. He's gonna blast some leg kicks and he's gonna mess your leg up. That's without a doubt.
Yeah. And
Okay,
Gaethje
so
hits hard too. Like you think over?
yeah, but not like Chandler hard though. Like he
No,
hits hard, but like not like Chandler. With all due respect, like I feel like Chandler
100%.
might have the power, the advantage in his hands, but with those leg kicks, the one factor I would think would be interesting is the wrestling. How does that go? We haven't seen too much of Chandler's wrestling, other than I guess, or in the UFC, other than this last Oliveira fight, a little bit. And we haven't really seen a lot of Gaethje's fighting, wrestling, if we're gonna be honest, apart from getting demolished against Khabib. How does that go? Is it just another Khabib, or is it a little bit more even there? I don't know. We'll see.
Man,
Second half. So go on.
sorry. I was just gonna say I would have to look up Chandler's jiu-jitsu credentials because like they're escaping me. Like I
His
think he's a
jiu-jitsu looked
brown
okay
belt.
yesterday. His
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu looked okay yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Like I think he's got like an actual like I just can't remember if he's got a brown belt or it doesn't mention anything here. But man, I can't. Okay, yeah, there's no there's no Brazilian jiu-jitsu credentials to suggest that he's got the juice like that on the ground. But he did okay for himself, so he must know what he's doing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Second half of the question asks, is Oliveira versus the winner versus McGregor Poirier the next logical fight for the 155 championship?
I just don't know why Gaethje doesn't get like a title shot. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't
Like
know. Why are we still talking about McGregor? Like,
I
are you
understand why
kidding me?
I understand why Poirier deserves it though.
Yeah,
So that's why
that
I'm
I can
willing.
see.
Yeah, that's why I'm willing. But let's say in some dark universe, if McGregor beats Poirier, well, yeah, like he should get a title shot, like he should. It's just to me, I just don't understand why Gaethje losing to Habib, who by the way isn't even the champion anymore because he's retired, doesn't get a title shot when he was consensus like the second best fighter in the world.
To be fair, Poirier's only loss in like how many years is against Khabib as well in that title shot.
Yeah.
So some could argue like he deserves it even more because he's even had wins since that Khabib fight.
And he
So
beat Gaethje too. So
and he beat Gaethje, which I would be more than okay with seeing a rematch of that. Like that was one of the best title fights, or
so
not
I
even a title fight. That was one of the best fights we've had in a long time.
yeah. So I guess if McGregor does win, fine, sure, yeah, he deserves the title shot. So
No. If McGregor wins, let him fight some other dude on the come up. Give him Zabit if he wants to fight a Russian. Like I don't know, whoever's
or
his
Islam, but you know
or
what's
Islam,
fuck?
not Zabit, Islam. Sorry.
Yeah, you know what's fuck? Oh, Zabit might get the diaphragm surgery actually, so he might never fight again. So that's a
That's fair.
travesty. Yeah, that's a travesty. We just lost one of the most exciting prospects of all time if he does retire. But Islam Makhachev can't buy a fight with anyone
Yeah.
in the top 50. What happened to
Connor.
RDA? What happened to RDA? Like,
Nobody wants to
what?
fight that dude, man. Nobody wants to fight that dude. And not to say RDA is ducking or anything, but I would like to see a Conor McGregor versus Islam fight. And if he beats Islam, then I'll hold my hands up and say, okay, this guy is still top, like a top of the level, like a top of the division, and he deserves to fight for a title shot.
Dude,
But
we know how that's gonna go, though. We
man,
know how that's gonna go.
you know what's
Yeah,
up. Anyway.
we know how that's gonna go. I was saying for like at least the second. I want to say the second Chad Mendez beat. Sorry, Conor beat Chad Mendez. I said if he beats Jose Aldo and decides to go up to lightweight, Habib's waiting for him. And this is when Habib had that rib injury. I was like, Habib is waiting for him. And people were like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. They had their fight. So I know what. Look, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I know what's going to happen if a Habib style fighter faces Conor.
It's not going to be good, man.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. I mean, and there's really only like a couple of Khabib style fighters, like real Khabib style fighters, and Islam just so happens to be one of them. So that is a bad matchup. But that's what I would need to see before I can get the same kind of competitive respect for Conor that I have for Justin Gaethje or even Dustin Poirier or even Michael Chandler. Like I wasn't in love with the fact that he got the title shot. I'm going to be honest. But you know, if he fights a Justin Gaethje or he fights a maybe not a Poirier, but just somebody else in the division. Let me just pull up the rankings right now and see who would fight. Um, yeah,
If he were to beat, let's see, if he were to beat, who's
Beneil
in the top?
Dariush.
Yeah, if he beats Beneil Dariush, that's not
Yeah,
bad.
give him another time. I mean, I don't know if you need a title shot after beating no shot to Beneil, but yeah, I don't know. If he
I mean,
still
Gaethje's the
wins,
logical fight, though. Gaethje's the logical fight,
yeah,
right? And then Beneil versus Islam Makhachev, I think, is logical there. But
Oh, okay, and let's just move on, transition to the next one. Beneil Dariush, unanimous decision against Tony Ferguson. I like Beneil Dariush, man. I want to see that dude fight for a title. And I think if you give him Islam, he's never gonna fight for the title. Not
because
never,
he's gonna
like that
lose,
would just be
because he's
like,
gonna lose.
yeah, that would be a hindrance to like, not to say like, you know, and I respect everybody's fighting skill, but I just think Islam is such a bad matchup for so many dudes. Like unless you have
Okay,
like
but so
freakish
then what are we doing here with Islam Makhachev? Because like I hate to make this the Islam Makhachev show, but is he one of the best lightweights in the division or not? Like what is
He
it?
is. We just
So
haven't
should
seen
he
him
not be
fight.
fighting for a title? Like what's our problem? Like
We just
what
haven't
is
seen
our
him fight, and all of his fights are against like dudes outside the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. Like who's the last
yeah,
guy in the
no.
top 10 that he's fought?
Wasn't it Drew Dober who was like he's not even in the top 10.
11,
He's like
12?
yeah.
Yeah, man, he's not really fought anybody in the top 10. And I think it's a shame because he would beat a lot of those dudes. No
So
disrespect.
that's my whole thing is like, okay, if Beneil, by the way, here's the breakdown. Beneil Dariush kicked the outside leg a couple times, took Tony down, and then pounded on him while Tony tried to throw some elbows. There it
Like
is. There's your breakdown. Tony's
no
done. Probably should
checking.
retire.
No
Right?
checking at all.
Like, I feel bad for Tony because it seems like his people have now kind of started to figure him out, and B, he's not as athletic enough to create as much chaos as he used to,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's like what really stood out to me is like people used to have a fear of getting to getting into a brawl with Tony Ferguson. I think that
And
fear is
now it's not
done.
the same. Yeah.
And honestly, what I saw was a Dariush bullying in terms of physically imposing himself on Tony Ferguson, literally jumping into takedowns, like
Yeah.
and not caring what the result was. Like he would get stuffed, he'd be like, no problem. I'm just gonna get back at you. Like against like a in form. And to be fair, Tony Ferguson was throwing a lot of like sneaky stuff, but the sneaky stuff wasn't hitting the way it used to.
Yeah.
Like he'd
Oh,
throw like
I
inside
love
elbow.
that he rolled and then threw like to the body and to the head again.
Yeah,
That was actually kind of interesting.
like he was doing some interesting stuff, but I just feel like as you said, that athleticism is no longer there. And as a result, like fighters, I remember when I sparred against you, and you're like, the first thing you got to do is just land one leg kick just to let them know, okay, like, you know what time it is. Like, you're going to have to work for
Yeah.
this one. And I just feel like, in a way, that's kind of what Dariush did, if you think about it. Like, he
Yeah.
just landed a couple of leg kicks and just, all that physical advantage you think you have, like, it's not here tonight, buddy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I did say that. It's like
Yeah, man.
established.
And it just established like some respect. Like, okay, no, like we're gonna fight here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you got power, I got power. Like, let's bang. But I feel like Tony Ferguson doesn't have like that kind of
He
power
hasn't
anymore.
no more respect. There's no
Yeah,
more respect that he gets in a fight, right? Ever since I would even say ever since the Gaethje fight, guys have
yeah,
just
for sure.
said, I don't respect you anymore, right? And it is what it is there. Like I can't fault them because they've been doing what they've been doing. Um
And once again, he talked a lot of smack coming into this fight. And I think Dariush's response is very telling. Because Dariush was basically like, you can say what you want, man, but I'm gonna be
I'm
there.
going to hurt you.
Like, I'm gonna be everywhere you are. Like, we're gonna see at the end of the day. And I think, once again, as you said, that athleticism and that respect, like, it's just like it's dropped off so much that it's kind of, I wouldn't say sad to see because the fight
It
is
is kind
what
of
it is,
sad. It is
but
kind of sad.
I don't know, man.
Man, you know what? I would say this though. Like, I think Tony does have to retire because it's like I don't want to see Tony Ferguson versus some gatekeeper, like some
No.
young, hungry up and comer. Like, I don't want to see him versus Drew Dober. I don't want to see that, right? Like, I don't want to see him versus Brad Riddell, right? Like,
Wow.
I
Shouts out
I
Brad Riddell. Don't do that.
no, but like my point, you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to see that. I want to see Tony fighting the best, right? It's the Tyron Woodley syndrome. I don't want to see Tyron Woodley versus Yi Zhang Liang. Like,
No.
I want to see him versus, like, no offense
Shout
to
out
my boy.
Lee.
Yeah, don't no points Yi, but like, is it Yi or Lee? Is
Is
it
it
Lee?
Leech? I don't know. Leech. Yeah, Lee the Leech. Oh man.
Lee John Leon. Like, I don't want to see that. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to see him versus. I can throw out some other names.
No. Okay, that's enough. Please, please.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I'm not trying to see that. So if I'm not trying to see Tony versus, could you imagine what Happy Up Ziv would do to him? Could you imagine?
I don't know how that fight would go, honestly, because I think Tony Ferguson. Once again, that's why I don't want to be too critical, because I do think he threw up some interesting stuff in that first round, and even in parts of the second round where he kept it at least not. Let me not say competitive because that sounds rude.
Standing for a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah, while it was standing, he threw up enough interesting and intriguing things. Like I could see if you put him up against a less experienced fighter, he could definitely still have the upper hand. But this was Dariush's time, man. You could tell this is dude like who lives in the gym. He was ready for
He's
anything.
hungry.
And
He's
yeah, it was
hungry.
hungrier, not
He was
hungrier,
hungry.
but he was hungry.
I
And
wouldn't say hungrier, but he was hungry.
yeah,
He
he
was
was
hungry.
hungry, and it didn't matter, what kind of inside elbow like Tony was throwing. He was getting that takedown. He was gonna control the jiu-jitsu. Um, I hope this, ends the whole, mythology of Tony Ferguson's jiu-jitsu.
Uh
I think we now seen like there's levels to this, and not no disrespect, but there's guys, they're jiu-jitsu players, and then there's like MMA jiu-jitsu players, and for
I
me,
mean, in fairness, and I will say this, he's fought against a guy who you would think for MMA is probably the best guy in the division, and then fought a jiu-jitsu world champion. Like
I don't know how you can say he's the best guy in. Wait, who's the best guy in the
Charles
division?
Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is probably the best jiu-jitsu guy in the division, and
Isn't Devi
the world
Ramos in the
champions.
division?
I mean, Davi Ramos doesn't use it much,
Is
so
isn't Islam Makhachev in division?
he's the Islam Makham's the best grappler. He's not the best jiu-jitsu guy. Like
No, I know.
it,
Okay.
yeah. So, but then again, like yeah, if Islam Makhachev faced Tony Ferguson, Do we have any
Bro,
illusions of how we
bro,
think that's gonna go?
I don't want to see that, man. I don't want to see that.
Because it's gonna get sad, right? So it's
Man,
like, okay, how about right? And I don't want to see him. He could probably win against Drew Dober. Like he probably could win against like Paul Felder. I could definitely see him winning
I
against
would
Paul
watch that.
Felder,
I would watch that.
right? But that's the thing. Do I want to see Tony? This is a guy who was the uncrowned champion of the division,
Mhm.
and the UFC screwed him out of a lot of money, man, because he should have been the champion. But unfortunately, this is kind of the way it goes. This is the way it went. Habib got sick. Tony tripped over a wire, which what the hell, man? But it all
And
was
he
what it
got weighed
was, and it was
twice and decided
yeah.
to pick up a fight while Habib was out.
And
And
remember how upset I was when that happened? Like
yeah.
when he decided to pick up a fight, and how upset I was after the fight. I was like, "Why are you doing this?
Yeah, for
Why?"
real. I mean, it goes to show. So next time somebody says, or we hear of a fighter not wanting to fight somebody in the division and give up their ranking, now we know why. Because yeah,
It's
man,
garbage.
it's a
But
shame. And
at the
it
same time,
was.
sorry.
They're going.
No, but yeah, at the same time, it's like, if you're number 7 in the division and you're trying to break in and you think you got the hots for it, you got the stuff, and all the top 5 guys are like, I'm not fighting, but I'm not gonna fight you. Bye. It's frustrating too. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a balance to everything.
I did want to give some props to Beneil. I thought he did a good job. Super professional, great game plan. No shit talking or anything like that.
Good night at
Uh,
the office.
he looked very good on, not very good, but he looked really like decent on the feet against, the boogeyman on the feet for a lot of people. On the floor, as I said, it was really no contest in my opinion. And there is one incident I wanted to talk about was that ankle. What would you call it? Like an ankle lock? Um,
Oh, heel hook. The
Heel
the
hook
he got an
ankle lock.
inside heel hook because it was on the other side. Tony's knee is definitely torn.
Injured.
Something's
Yeah,
definitely torn.
something's definitely, and the
Something's
way he
definitely
was
torn.
reacting, and do you think it was a little bit of mercy on Beneil's part for letting go? I wouldn't, or do you think Tony Ferguson actually got out? Because that thing was in, man. That thing was in, and you could tell. I felt like he could have ripped his knee apart if he wanted to from that position.
Uh, it's an interesting question. On first viewing, I thought he got out, but
Okay.
I'd have to watch it again because the reason why is because you could see Beneil like instinctively like lose. It's an inside because it's not the outside one where you have it on the outside and you
Mhm.
you turn the heel inward and you have them dead to rights because the feet are like tucked into the
Yeah.
the armpit, and it's an inside one where the feet is a little more open and it's more reliant on the positioning of the legs, and you're turning it based on the position of where your legs are to the opponent's knee line.
Sure.
And so Tony like did what he was supposed to do. He cleared the knee line. He used a couple like axe kicks from
Mhm.
the bottom to do so, and then Beneil lost it because he didn't have that same feet tucked into the armpit kind of positioning that he wanted, and lost it. And
Gotcha.
then you could see him try to grab it back, right? So on first viewing, I thought he lost it, but I'm not saying you're wrong though. It could have definitely been a mercy.
Just a thought, because yeah, in the post fight, Dariush is like, yeah, I definitely heard his knee pop. So for me, Tony Ferguson's a legend, and I know a lot of guys are, take no prisoners mentality when they're in there, but it was weird. I felt like he could have finished the fight there. But
I
to be
mean,
fair, he
even
kind of
even
did.
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to be fair, he kind of did, because after that, like, Tony Ferguson had zero to offer in
Nothing.
terms of offense. Um,
Well, I will say, it's not the first time someone's done that. If he did give it up, have mercy, because Matt Hughes, I distinctly remember Matt Hughes having Hoist Gracie dead to rights when they fought
mhm.
with an armbar, and Hoist Gracie was not tapping because are you kidding me? It's Hoist Gracie, like the godfather of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in MMA, right? And he had him in the armbar, and it was tight, and Matt had two choices. Do I break his arm? Do I break this legend's arm, or do I just let go and TKO him somewhere else? And he
Hilarious.
decides to let go. So
Yeah, do I let go? Do I want to ever go into Brazil again, or do I let go? Yeah, I
yeah.
think you made the smart choice there, Matt.
So yeah, no, it does happen. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like he could have definitely let go, have
Yeah.
mercy, but yeah.
All right. Speaking of let it go, and having mercy and arm bars, we're gonna skip over a few fights, and don't worry, we're definitely gonna get back to the Barbosa fight. But talk about Jacare, man. I mean,
he
Mike, we
he
haven't been
disappointed.
doing this pod for that. We haven't been doing this pod for that long, but there was a time when we first started. Jacare was one of the boogeyman of the middleweight division, and it just
Remember how surprising it was when Jack Hermanson fought the fight of his life
yeah,
against? Yeah, like
yeah. I mean, that's kind of like is Jacare done? I
mm,
have a lot of
mm,
emotions about this, but is Jacare done?
if you can't beat, do you even know who he fought?
No.
Okay,
Muniz, shouts out to
there
you,
it
Andre Muniz, to an armbar to jujitsu.
is.
It's
This
hard.
is this is Jiu-Jitsu god Jacare Souza
Yeah.
losing by armbar against who? You know who?
Who?
And I hate to say it like that. Like I hate to
I
say it
know.
like that, but it. See, this is the problem when with basketball commentary and basketball analysis versus MMA analysis. Because Stefano would have been here to stand me up real quick when I said that. But basketball, you can say these things because people look at it and they know the culture. If Michael Jordan's getting blocked by Vashawn Leonard when he's on the Wizards, it's time for Michael Jordan to be done. When this is
This
the
was
MMA equivalent of Michael Jordan getting blocked by Vashawn Leonard
yeah.
when he's on the Washington Wizards. This
This
is
is
it.
it's time, man, because yeah, it's just a shame. Jacare doesn't look the same. He doesn't look as explosive as he used to. And I don't want to be too critical, but it seems almost like the game's caught up with him in terms of like his skill set. Like I don't think fighters are really fearing his hands like they used to.
You
And
know the worst part about that armbar too? It
like,
wasn't even like locked in, locked in. Was it? Because the other leg was over the top of the shoulder. So did he like lock
he
it in
broke
like
it.
kind of like, yeah, he broke it. But like, was it a figure four maybe or a top lock? Like I've never seen that kind of style to finish off the armbar before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, maybe it was a pillow.
Honestly, I thought he was going for the triangle, and yeah, that's why I was a little surprised that he broke his arm because I just don't. I don't have any words. I don't have any words really. Just
Yeah.
shouts out to Jacare,
It could
man.
have been a pillow juji now that I think about it, because like he could have put his foot behind his neck and then you could finish it that way. But even that didn't look like that too. So it's like he gone with just raw strength, like I'm thinking,
He
or maybe
must have had like his arm against, like he must have had like in a fulcrum, like his leg using his thighs as a fulcrum, some kind of thing, because he broke that arm.
yeah.
And the question is how.
Right.
Um,
It was
that's what.
definitely an arm bar. It's just
Yeah, yeah. But shouts out to Jacare, man. What a career. Definitely going to go down as one of the top guys in the division. It's a shame. I wouldn't say he needs to be cut, or I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't make those decisions about who needs to be cut. But
I think when you reach status that Jacare has, especially when he was in Strike Force and he was a killer and he came to the UFC, and if not for one match against Robert Whitaker, he probably could have won the championship here. Uh, if not for those two things, then I think Jacare would have. Like Jacare's a legend, and Jacare deserves legend treatment, which is retirement fight against another older guy. Have kind of a glorified sparring session and call it a
yeah,
career.
they should have put him against what's his name, Anderson Silva. That would have been a good like farewell fight for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the other fight that I wanted to talk about, or actually there was a couple that I want to sneak in, but the other fight I really want to talk about was the Edson Barbosa versus Shane Burgos fight. Man, I mean,
Interesting.
what a fight! I mean, first of all, shouts out to the other dudes who fought: Bontrain, Schnell, Kagan, Araujo, Vivian.
It's Araujo, by the way.
Arujo, sorry.
Araujo.
But man,
I know
Barbosa.
this because Rafael Araujo played for the Raptors and he had the same last name. Bless you.
Okay, we'll just
He
let that one sit
sucked,
right there.
but
But man, I thought Edson Barbosa looked, I wouldn't say back to his old self, but he looked real good and came out wailing those leg kicks. I love it. I love it. You can
sure.
tell somebody clearly had a word with him. Someone's clearly being like Edson, like this is what you do. You're the best in the UFC at this. Just do what you're good at.
Well,
And to his
it's
credit,
easier to do it when someone's not gonna grapple. Like
Shane,
shit.
I thought Shane Burgos fought a really good fight, in my humble opinion. I thought he fought. Yeah, you're right. It's easier when you're not going up against a Khabib who's gonna grab your leg and
Yeah.
grind you against the cage
Yeah.
for 15 minutes. But yeah, I thought he fought a really good fight. Barbosa's jab looked good, looked real good, but Burgos his jab looked real good as well. Barbosa's leg kicks looked really good. I thought Burgos's boxing in general was also really good. He had a couple good like body shots, he had a couple good hooks. He caught Barbosa a couple of times, but eventually, man, Barbosa's just such a killer, man. Like
Cumulative damage for the
yeah,
delayed knockout win. That was weird.
that was
But
weird. And I would hope Shim Burgos went to some kind of hospital last night because you don't
he
see that.
tried to refuse to go, eh?
What?
He tried to refuse to go to the hospital.
I
He
didn't
tried.
even. I didn't see that.
Yeah, like Dana said that he refused to go to the hospital. Like he was refusing to go to the hospital. To which I say, are you high? Like what? Well, he was definitely
Dazed.
compromised
Yeah.
from the fight because Jesus. But like that's look. I'm not a doctor, but if you're getting delayed reaction knockout of that nature,
That's weird.
something's wrong,
What do
right?
you think about Barbosa's shots after he goes down? Because you're a fighter, and you probably, you know what it feels like to see a guy go down from a shot. I get the whole principle of you follow him and until the referee pulls you up. I get that, but you know when someone's done. Like this was one of those weird, like out of place.
I'm a walk off guy. Like I like the walk off, but
That's what I'm
because
saying. Like,
I'm a cocky bastard. That's why.
hilarious.
Like I get it. I get it. So I also get why Mike Beltran was tardy because it's
It was
a
weird.
delayed reaction. It was
Yeah.
weird, right? I
You don't
get it
see
from
that
all
usually. He
points.
looked like he was still in his stance before he like stumbles back. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and we start going.
No, you're right. Like it was weird. It was just weird all around, right? And so I get Edson Barbosa going for a couple after because you never know. Shane Burgos probably pops right back up, and then you've lost your opportunity, right? And I get why Mike Beltran was late. Although Mike Beltran, it looks like he cut his reins a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah, yeah.
but or maybe they're
Tucked it
in
in.
his shirt. Yeah, he tucked it in. It was a special occasion that night.
Nasty. Sorry, Mike.
uh, but like I get why he was tardy too. He looks big, by the way. I was like, wow. I was so shocked that like he always just kind of seems small in the broadcast, and then like you look at him besides like some of the lightweights and featherweights, it's like wow, this guy's
Oh, he's
clearly
a big
like
dude.
a big dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I get why he was late. I get why he was late because it's like oh yeah, like he just went down weirdly, but he's out. So, yeah, I get it all around. It's just that because it was such a delayed reaction and we kind of associate that with something wrong, and someone could come up tomorrow and be like, "Oh, it's completely okay," and here's why. Because we associate that with it being wrong, the couple shots look way worse than they actually are.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
So
I don't know. He got him like right in the temple after he
yeah,
was laying on the floor protecting his face like this. Like, I mean, it wasn't good.
and
Like
now
if you watch it again, like the fit, like it really doesn't look good
yeah,
in the context of a dude he was unconscious. He was already unconscious as he's
yeah.
on the floor, and I get it, but I don't know.
No, it's just my whole thing is let's say Shane Burgos went down immediately, right? And those couple shots happened. Are we
But
as
that's the
mad?
point. He didn't go down immediately. Like
I
that.
think
That's the
that's
point.
yeah. I think that
Yeah.
adds. Okay, you're right. You're right. It adds context
Like
to this.
yeah. If he like had like dropped and then like in the heat of the moment, like you're following up your shots, like I get it. But to see a dude like stumble halfway across the ring, and I'm thinking logically in a very illogical moment, like there's no ration. I
Yeah,
feel like when you're fighting, like you're just fighting off
dude.
instinct.
Watch you go in your first MMA fight and you knock a guy down and you're just like going after him like you're
Yeah,
pushing the
of
ref off.
course, man. Raining elbows. You know me.
You're just yelling like die.
This is for the motherland. Yeah.
you know.
Against another black dude. Yeah. Um, anyway, yeah. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good. I thought the knockdown was also pretty good. Like Barbosa's actual like the finishing
The
shot, the way he
sequence,
like
yeah.
looped that. Burgos, his hands were down like the entire fight. But yeah, I thought it was a good
Classic
fight.
Shane Burgos fight.
Yeah. The other two fights I really wanted to quickly just mention, and we don't have to
Mm.
discuss them in any kind of detail. I don't know this dude's name. It's Jay Wright versus Jay Pickett. And Wright, I think it's Justin Wright, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he was the dude who got beat by Joaquin Buckley with that like beautiful
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
cross
yeah.
hook combo.
But he's good though. Like that guy actually has like some pretty good skills. I've watched some of his fights before, and he's actually a really unorthodox dude. Man, he put the beating on this guy. I think it's Jamie Pickett or
Jay
something like
Pickett.
that. Beat
Yeah.
beating, and I like that.
Dog, it makes me realize how good Joaquin Buckley is though. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because Joaquin Buckley schooled him.
Yeah, but I also think it's just one of those things. Like Kevin Holland schooled Joaquin Buckley, and Kevin Holland's been getting schooled recently. So I just think it's one of those performance things. And for me, this fight, it was just like Pickett just didn't know he was gonna hit that hard. It seemed like it. He didn't know this kid hits as hard as he does. And once he
Yeah.
got hit, like he was burst open instantly. And he got
Yeah.
like he fell to the floor, and this guy's on top of him, wailing on him. Like, it was a wrap, real quick. Um,
Dude, I always say this: assume someone hits hard until you feel it.
fair, fair.
Assume assume like be defensively responsible until you realize, hey, this man's hands are pillows. You can do whatever, you know.
You hear that, Jorge? I'm joking. Um,
No.
and then another one, the other fight I wanted to talk about really quickly, and I know you want to talk about the Priscilla Cachoeira fight, so don't worry.
No,
Yeah,
I
good.
actually don't. I don't care about that. I
Good.
care more about the Chukagian one because
What?
no, I care more about it than I did because it's the only other women's fight I remember on the card. Right? Like I
Okay,
care
fair
more
enough.
about that one than I did. But I don't want to talk
Oh,
about it.
the one I was
Yeah.
going to talk about was actually a decent fight. Andrea Lee.
Oh, that was the other one. There it is. Yeah. Okay, versus who? Anthony Shevchenko.
Um,
Yeah,
versus Andrea Lee versus Antonina Shevchenko. I thought that was a
yeah.
great fight, man. Sorry, just fix my.
You know, Anthony Shevchenko, why is one of the Shevchenko sisters so good at jujitsu and the other one is
I know.
not?
I
What
know.
is going
To be
on?
fair though, Antonina showed some decent stuff on the feet, like some decent stuff. Andrea Lee's good, man. Like, can we just
Yeah.
give it up and call it as like she might not be top of the division, she might not be ready for a championship, but she's a vet and she's like no scrub out there, and that
But
to
like
me is what they're going.
no, I was gonna say it's like her, Murphy, Marferi. If you think like they're gonna be easy W's for you to just use as stepping stones, like you have another thing coming. Like
Yeah,
those
there's
girls have been in there. Man, I shouldn't call them girls. Those women have been in there for a long ass time. I'll
yeah,
remind you, Flepo Dollar once said the A word. No, I'm kidding.
hilarious.
But yeah, no, those girls are good, right? And if you go in there underestimating them, and I'm not saying Anthony Shevchenko underestimated her, but if you go in there underestimating them, they're going to beat you.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure. And you know what? Shevchenko, illustrious Muay Thai career, illustrious. But Andrea Lee can kickbox too, and I think she proved that. She
Yeah.
generally looked better on the feet than Shevchenko, and once they hit the floor, like it wasn't
It
close.
was a wrap.
Yeah,
A wrap.
so don't sleep on Andrea Lee, man. I actually like her style. Like you don't see a lot of women fighting like that. She has a very kind of, I wouldn't say robotic because her name is KGB, but a very kind of like head movement heavy style, which, yeah,
Alexa Grasso used to fight like that back in the day.
true.
Like kind of like that style where it's like head movement boxing oriented, but you're not really like front leg heavy. You're kind of like truck movement style, right?
And
Um,
let me just double check what round that finish was in. I think it was the second round.
yeah,
Yeah,
second
second round. And there
round,
was like
eight
pretty much
seconds
like
left. Yeah.
3 minutes of like Andrea Lee trying to what's the word? Um, sink in that armbar. Like she was at that thing for like 3 minutes.
Oh,
So kind of harsh for Shevchenko to say like she doesn't know any jujitsu, but yeah,
Dude, if you can't get out, okay. I hate to say it. If you
just drop
cannot
her
get out
that
of
shit.
armbar position after 3 minutes, if you're not turning, if you're not doing a stack escape or or a hitchhiker escape or maybe a Cabo escape with that, like if you're not doing something, something is wrong. That's what I'm trying to explain. Like
I'm not gonna argue with Blue Belt Mike, White Belt Mike. I don't know, but
white belt Mike, no blue belt, blue belt. But look, I'm just saying, like there are like 3 different escapes you can do, and did you see her attempt any escape? Let's for the room.
she looked like she was trying to survive.
Okay,
She looked like she
that's
was
my
trying to survive.
point.
Yeah.
That's my point. Right? You know, like
And to each their
why are
own.
you there for so long?
But yeah, man, shout out to Entry League because the commentators were actually critical of her not sinking that in time, like earlier, and say like, oh, she doesn't understand the fundamentals, and she still got it done, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
in fairness, it wasn't a conventional armbar. It was a triangle with it at first, and then it was like there was a
Oh yeah,
lot
yeah, yeah.
more.
She was like fishing for something. Like, yeah, I mean, it was
So
an interesting one. But to be fair, like the second it goes on the floor, like she slings her like legs over the top of her head, which shows like she's going for something, like going for either
a
like the
triangle. Yeah.
yeah, she's going for the triangle
Triangle.
or the armbar because you can do that, right? Well, you can
Yeah.
do that,
You
but
can do a triangle armbar. That's also the other thing with this too is that where it's just there was just no like activity in the movement of what you want to do. Like I would have been more happy with okay, so she tries to do a triangle choke escape and it doesn't work, and then the armbar comes. So then you try to do this. You know, have that kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? Like plan on how to escape that shows that like you're learning the jujitsu and not just relying on like your strength or your power or something like that,
yeah.
right? And that's kind of what I like about Valentina is that Valentina is always moving on the ground. She's going to pass. She's going to crucifix. She's going even when she's on her back against Maya, she goes back into full. Then she's trying to sweep. Then she goes into half. Then she's what I'm saying there's
Mhm.
movement. There's movement. When there's movement, that's how you tell.
Two final things on Shevchenko. Number one, I did not know that she is a commercial and private airline pilot, like a licensed one, which is amazing. So shouts out
That's
to her. That's actually
that's
pretty incredible. Um, and number two, man, it's never easy being the firstborn. So I get it. Like we here at the Leg Kick are a bunch of firstborns. We get it, man. Like it's
except
a
for
lot of pressure.
Jeremy. Actually, Stefano might be a second board too. I remember his brother's older, so
True. I didn't even know Stefano had a brother, but there you
yeah,
go. All
yeah,
right.
good dude.
All right. I think that's it for today, Mike. We've asked our listener question. Let me just double check and see if there's anything come up since then. No. All right. So, uh, thank you for listening, everyone. If you have any comments, anything positive, negative to say, we don't
Threaten
care.
the
We'll take it
children.
all.
Threaten the children.
Yeah, I will threaten your children. If you do not like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever social media platform you use. And yeah, Mike, please take us away.
Yeah. If you don't like and share and subscribe, we'll punch you and your children in the throat multiple times. All right.
Hilarious. We're gonna get you in the same heel hook that Beneil had Tony Ferguson in, and we're not gonna let go.
Never, never.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take your heels home with me. I
In
collect them
true
as
Stefano
souvenirs.
Hosko style, we will
Yeah.
take your heels home with us.
Dude, it's such okay. I gotta explain this. It's such a weird time rolling with Stefano for the first time because it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, heel hug, oh, heel hug,
He
oh,
just
knee
throws
bar.
it like
Like,
he throws it like yeah, I don't know, like how other people pass. He just like throws heel hooks.
yeah, like if you like you have to you cannot be as lazy with your legs as you are with Stefano, or else he's taking it home. Although we kind of just gave away, like
I
his
mean,
move.
it's one thing saying it. Good luck stopping him. That's
Oh
another.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know. Ah man. And it's not like he can't do other things too. Didn't he get this last guy with an anaconda? All right. Anyway, in this crazy mixed up world where Tony Ferguson is pretty much done. Just remember, you got three things: you got life, you got family, and this podcast. Take it easy, everybody.
Peace out, man.